Welcome, my friends. Another episode. So, thank you very much for being here. My name is Carlos Vargas, and if this is your first time, thank you very much for being here. There's an interesting topic that I want to go through today. It's gonna be a little bit technical, but at the same time, a little bit for you. With all the things that have been changing, and as technology professionals and leaders, we constantly have to be growing and looking into what are we going to read, what are we going to learn, what trainings are we going to be jumping in. And I was thinking that this week I actually got 4 different training sessions for technology that I have to start looking into it. New role, new different clients that actually are leveraging those technologies. And I started thinking, really, there is an art and a science to actually stay motivated while the rest of the people may actually just think that the sky is falling or that there's problems, that the economy and everything else like that. And I started thinking about that because while looking at my library, I actually start redoing here the studio. So you see that there's a couple of new things that we're working on it. We have lights coming in, we have LEDs, we have a bunch of stuff. And the wife got really excited about the whole thing. So I started thinking, what actually helped me to stay engaged while all these things keep coming? Because, an example, to go through a whole training session, while for some people may be excited or exciting, for others that may not be the case. While rebuilding an office, again, for some people it may be exciting, for others may not. And with everything that is happening, I started looking through my library. I started looking through what I actually, or the practices that I do on a day-to-day basis, to see, is there something that I can share? And number one, I remember a book from Rich Carlson that he mentioned not to sweat the small things. And it's interesting because life actually is not a gigantic issue or a gigantic problem. If you think about it, there are a bunch of little, little problems. And those small things, if we actually are sweating it constantly, like, oh, there's a problem, I don't know what to do, and we don't take an action to actually look at it from the perspective of being proactive, we end up looking at life, at your career or your relationships, as that they are just a problem. And we are sweating bullets, like they say, for a lot of stuff. And when I learned that piece, when I look at that, it was like, it's interesting because I can learn from the little things. I don't have to sweat through them, but I can now start growing through those. What can I learn? Like, one of the things that I have probably like 4 or 5 services is that even though I like to read, I don't have enough time to read. And I have taken courses for speed reading, photo reading, and I have done it. One of the things that I truly enjoy is to actually get a summary of a book. So one of my things that I used to sweat was I don't have enough time to read the amount that I would like to read. And when I find out about the summary services that you actually pay and they summarize the book and you can consume that, it was a game changer for me. Because at the beginning, it was just the printout PDF that you can actually read through the PDF and the book. And then all of a sudden they came out with actually like audiobook versions of their summaries. So that was a great alternative for me not to sweat the idea that I couldn't read a lot. Now I was able to start consuming the content that I wanted in the way that I wanted. To give an idea, when I walk in the morning or when I get on the car to go and do some errands, I actually put one of those summaries and I start going through them. And it helped me. That was a book by Napoleon Hill, not Think and Grow Rich, but Outwit the Devil. It's not a religious book or anything like that. It was one of the books. It's so interesting because he had a conversation with like himself. And it's very interesting because he identified that internally we all have something that probably stopped us from moving forward. And for the longest time, I have wanted to read the book. I said, I'm going to order it. I have read Think and Grow Rich probably after the Bible. Probably the next book is Think and Grow Rich, probably once or twice a year. And that book, Outwit the Devil, was on my list. And as soon I saw a new service, I got an email saying, hey, here's a new service. You can get in ahead of launch. I got in, and that was the second book that they have on the list. And I downloaded it, I read it, and it was so good to be able to finally understand the concept that he was putting there. And I share this with you because sometimes there will be alternatives. But those little things that sometimes we sweat about what we cannot do and how we feel are the ones that hold us back. The second thing that I actually realized that we all have habits. And you probably have read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I think that his nephew or his grandson wrote the second version, the 8 Habits, I think, is of highly successful people. And there are a couple of versions of it. And the reason that I look at habits as a very important part of what's going to move you and stay motivated is that your habits determine what you do. I'm going to ask you a question. So right now, if you close your eyes and you think how you drive, do you actually think every step that you take from the moment that you get on the car to when you arrive to your destination? Or there's some habits already built into you? Like you get on the car, you put the seatbelt in the same way. Hopefully, you're putting your seatbelt, okay? If you have a beverage, you put it probably in the same cup holder. Your car may have 2, may have 4, may have 10, but you probably put it in the same cup holder. The way that you shift, if you are a manual transmission or an automatic, the way that you put your feet to accelerate or brake. So there are things that you now do in automatic. They have become a habit. So right there, that's a simple example that when we learn something, we start doing it automatically. And to stay motivated, sometimes we have to break that pattern. We have to realize that sometimes we have done things that actually demotivate us. To give an example, I don't know when you're watching this, but if you're watching this in the year 2022 or in 2550, a couple of years ago, we suffered a big issue, a big pandemic. And one of the habits that I took was that in the morning, even though I was waking up and I was taking time to try to meditate, to try to stay centered, the first thing that I was doing was that I was in front of the TV. And that actually, even though everybody was doing the same thing, I was not staying focused in probably growing my career. Actually, even though I was working, but there was something else that took my focus. And I shared this with you because after a while, it was difficult to actually break the habit of waking up, sitting in front of the TV, and being focused in growing who I am. And it took some effort, but it was not just that I took a decision. It was not just a, oh yeah, I don't want to do this anymore. I actually had to start moving some things to have a higher priority to force me to break that habit. And we all may have different habits that we like and some that we don't like because they are not beneficial for us. But the key to stay motivated and to actually move to that next level is to maintain habits that actually can benefit us. Is TV a bad thing? No. Is probably eating a bad thing? No. Is sleeping a bad thing? No. Is going too much to the gym is a bad thing? No. But our habits should be aligned with what motivates us and how we're going to move forward to reach our true potential, our purpose, what we're here. And it's interesting because when we realize that, we can then start making changes. We can start growing ourselves and looking at different areas to try to benefit ourselves and to benefit others, because that's the next piece. That when you start doing things and switching and growing yourself, you start impacting others. And sometimes you don't realize the impact that you have in others until later on when they actually come back and say, hey, we actually have seen the impact that you have on our life. And that goes to the last resource that I want to share with you. That is also another great book that have helped me a lot. That is The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. And a lot of people recommend the book. And the reason for it is that we all may have a tendency of actually probably going towards the negative. An example, this cup of coffee is halfway. Some people may think that it's half empty, others may be half full. And one of the interesting things that when I was going through that resource, that book, and there's different versions of it, is the idea that we need to learn to be happy and focus on the positive things that are going for us. That in reality, they are a lot of them. But with the social media world, or if we combine ourselves, we look and compare ourselves against others, we actually start thinking that other people have it better than us. And in reality, what we're comparing ourselves may be a fake profile, maybe someone else that is actually posting just the good and not the bad. But I bet that all of us that are actually looking at this, at some point, we may have had something to eat today when there are people that don't have anything to eat, have a role in a company, doesn't matter what company it is, or you're transitioning, but there are opportunities. And in this day and age, there are more opportunities than ever, even though if there may be difficulty with the government where you live or difficulty with the economy, but there are always opportunities to do something different. You have to switch the way you think about it. And when you switch the way you think about it, you actually can transform your mind so you can actually be more effective. So, my friends, those are three areas that actually are key, that when you focus on them, you actually can grow and stay motivated. So, my friends, we'll see you on our next episode.